And we woke up this morning to a major problem. This is the kind of thing you ruins your whole life. Our microwave stopped working. After 15 years, our microwave stopped. Bingo, like a light switch went off. Now, the worst possible fate for humanity, I can't reheat my coffee. So today, Karen has mandated job one is to go microwave shopping. Anyway, luckily we live right near a Lowe's and a Home Depot and a microwave sales place. That's going to be the priority of the day. But it's okay because it's freezing cold outside, and it won't. No chance it'll warm up till this afternoon. So it's way below it. I think it was 14, 15 degrees this morning. Feel like I'm playing for the Green Bay Packers here. But here's the good news. There's some really good news. The job I have to do today to sand out that coat of primer, and if it has to be over freezing before I can put the next coat of primer on, I can get that done. So that won't be a problem at all. So the best thing is to change the battery tenders and get in a house where it's nice and warm. So once I flip all the battery tenders and everything's cooking out here, the only thing left to do is chop the ice on a pond. Well, it's frozen too. It is really, really cold. This might be the coldest day of the year so far. But the whole idea of doing this restoration, doing a leapfrogging system is, I didn't want to have a day like today that I'm out here pulling wheels off the bike and doing all this, laying on a concrete floor, even though I have 2 layers of carpeting. I'm still a baby. I still like to be inside the house where it's nice and warm. I'm thinking all my friends that live in warm weather climates right now, you're not missing a thing. Now as I get back into the shop, I spin the wheel. It looks so good. I am so happy I put the time in. Now, I could probably, if I wanted to, just leave this, but I do want to do a full sand out with 600 paper when I get back from microwave shopping. I want to sand this out. Hopefully by then it'll warm up. Get a second coat of primer on it. I want to keep the primer at the edge as thin as possible. I don't want to do any extra. I don't want a big paint buildup here because that's where it would tend to chip if somebody had to use a tire iron on this. But in here and in the spokes especially, I know we can make this really super. Look at this, the tape's coming off. You know why? We're under a heating vent here. But anyway, right under a heating vent, and that's the whole ticket. But anyway, that wheel, now we're talking, now the fun begins. But there's only one thing left to do early in a morning like this. First, I like to have my coffee and then do my email. And when it's cold out there like it is this morning, this is the magic bullet. Now what's funny is, this is a really funny story. We had the microwave go bad. We checked the date that we bought it, and it's 15 years old, so obviously it needs to be replaced. But the people that had this house before us, they did a kitchen renovation, and when we were renovating it 15 years ago, what happened was, we found it, we pulled where their old refrigerator was, and in the wall there was an envelope, and it had a receipt for the person that renovated the kitchen. And they said, it was handwritten by the people that owned the house, the Jacobs, and they said, we spared no expense in renovating this kitchen. God bless you. Hope you enjoy this kitchen forever. Well, it did last them a long time. But what happened, we opened it up and there was a receipt in there for $3,600. The whole kitchen renovation was $3,600. Can you imagine? Come on, coffee. Let's go. Let's go. So we got 15 years out of it, but right now it's time to replace it. And what's funny, John Pothia's microwave went almost on the same day. So it must be microwave, where microwaves go to die. This morning, as I'm starting off my email, the first thing I get some pictures from Dallas out in Sacramento, California. He went for a ride on his GS and stopped at a couple of places where they fly model planes. But this is one clean Suzuki. Dallas, I always appreciate you sharing these pictures, and it always makes me want to go for a ride, but you know what? I still got snow on the ground out there, and I got a wheel of sand. Oh, and I know you have different wheels. I don't know if all the 83s came with those different wheels, but the discs are the same, but I don't have those wheels. I have the other style. And since we're dealing with wheels, I've been looking at wheels everywhere I go, even car wheels. And remember, this is an 83, and I'm always looking at, I try to look at your bike and see how many things are different than on mine. And there's a lot of stuff different, even though I always thought those bikes were pretty similar. And I guess if you were, you know, if we had the two bikes side by side, we'd just go back and forth and say, well, this is different. The thing that holds the back foot pegs and the mufflers on is very different on yours too. And I know yours is an 83 and mine's an 82. Now I know Joe Padula, I don't know if his has to be an 82. It's that tan color. And Aaron's is an 82 also. But I just always have that picture in my mind that these are some of the prettiest motorcycles ever designed, just from an aesthetic point of view. I'm trying to look to see if our the instruments look the same, and I know you have those mirror extensions too. But it is truly a wonderful way to start off a day. Wonderful. Seeing that people somewhere in the world are riding while I'm sitting here freezing. Actually, it's even worse than that. After, I think it was 19 years or 18 years, our microwave finally gave up the ghost. I got to replace the microwave in the house. But no matter what angle you look at it from, it's a beautiful machine, no doubt about it. And all these retro bikes, they're always close but no cigar. Now, a little sad note here, Dallas, and I know you're in California where probably there's a longer flying riding season, but our model club, the Garden State Circle Burners, that I was a member of for, I don't know, probably 40 years or something, 30 years, they just lost their field, so it's a shame. But one of the good things about having a GS, you belong to the GS Owners Club, and there's only 4 of us left in the world. I'm not so sure about that. Now we have one little thing. By the time you actually get to see this, Dallas, I may have the new computer up and running to the point where I can enlarge these pictures and get a much better resolution. I have a much better monitor on the other computer, the new one. Anyway, Dallas, thanks for sharing. And you're making me want to go for a ride today instead of replacing a microwave. So Dallas, I appreciate sharing that email. I love your GS. Believe me, I wish we could ride together. I wish I could put my my GS in an envelope and mail it out to you and we could go for a ride. I was in where you live outside of Sacramento, and I was in the Napa area for many 3 weeks at least. Went up and down Route 5, but of course we went in a minivan, so it doesn't count if you're in a minivan. Anyway, the wheel is ready to sand, and Karen is pretty much ready to go, so I'm just going to get everything set up because I learned a lesson long ago. What's very important in my life: always take care of the honeydews first, then I have the whole rest of the day to work on my stuff. And it may be a short rest of the day, but I'm sure I'll be able to get the wheel out and get the primer on. And that means if it's a paintable day tomorrow, I'll get the wheel in gold. Wow. Because I do always like to have everything dry overnight. I'm just old school. I know people are going to say, oh, you don't have to do that. You could go. Yeah, you do it, you know. I'm old school. I like doing everything the old-fashioned way. Now, as we're getting ready to leave, there was some information I thought worth sharing. In the course of doing any restoration or building any model plane or doing anything like renovating a kitchen, there's always the temptation somewhere in the job to take the shortcut. And there's always the possibility that somewhere down the road, you take that shortcut, you save a half an hour or some amount of money, and then years later, every time you look at it, you say, oh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I just do that? So in our case, there's been several parts of this job that I thought, well, maybe I could skip over it. Now, a good example is when I made these, the carbon fiber parts, and I was just going to leave them raw carbon, and then I thought, no, I wanted to have that painted. And it was a lot of extra work to do that, an awful lot of work. But every one of the parts here, I've put a little bit of extra time in, a little bit of extra effort, a little bit of over-the-top sanding and over-the-top buffing and over-the-top everything. But I know in the end, even the parts like this that are going to need to be cleaned up, this is going to require a cleanup. The brake disc is going to get cleaned up, all the hardware. Now, I've been saving the hardware for a day in between paint drying, but it doesn't look like we have that day yet. But what we are able to do, and I think it's a very important thing, is when you use leapfrogging, every day you can plan, always have something you can buff, always have something you can sand, and always have a bunch of those videos you can watch the summer rides that are coming about 2 months from now, 3 months, 5 months from now. Maybe it's a year away, who knows. So it is time to get out the 600 sandpaper, 600 Indasa, and some water. I'll be all set up, and by that time Karen will be ready to go. It's your lucky day, you get a new microwave. Do I get a new motorcycle? I'm never in favor of when things get too old you throw them out. Pretty soon they're going to be throwing me out. What'd you find, baby? Boy, there's a wide range of choices in microwaves, but we're going to go to Home Depot anyway and check out the price. And when Lowe's don't have what you want, you just go to Home Depot down the road. 2,000 more microwaves to look at. Ay, 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 ay. Worse than Motorcycle Mall. So the technology must have changed, because I was always told you don't put anything metal in a microwave, and all these new microwaves have metal shelves. Some new technology. Well, the way this day played out, we shopped around and we wound up getting a really good deal at Home Depot. We took the floor model for a giant discount. I can go to Motorcycle Mall and buy a bike now. What a day. Karen, I want to see you smile. Turn around and smile. We saved enough money we can go buy a Ducati. Not really. So we are back from getting that microwave in stock. Now we're not going to install it today, of course, because what's happened, and it's been something I'm trying to use to my favor. The day has played out as we went shopping. The day's warmed up. The wind isn't really blowing. Not terribly anyway. And the sun is out, which if I can get the primer sanded, and then what I want to do is get a very light coat of primer on this and give it an hour to dry. And I may get the gold on this today. So not like it's a rush, but I would like to take advantage of what an unexpected day. Now what this means is I don't want to rush this part of it though. This part is going to take at least an hour. I'm going to very carefully get in every little nook and cranny that I can. Any little high spot that comes up, well, that's why we're going to put a very light coat of primer on this once we're done sanding it. But this turns into that thing we always talk about, the labor of love, getting in all these little nooks and crannies and whatever. 600 Indasa, and it just becomes a labor of gefilte fish. So the way this always works, there's just, I think 99% of this has to be done with your fingertip sanding, all these radiuses, all these edges. But what's going to happen if I skip this step? Somewhere in the future I'm going to be unhappy. Where today, I actually will finish this today. I will put the effort in required to get this done today, because to be able to use in the middle of the winter like this, truly a painting day. A day that you can really paint with the sun out and the wind not blowing, and not snowing and not raining and whatever. It's something I don't want to waste. So rather than belabor the whole point, I think everybody in the world can figure out this is just going to be just time consuming. We have to do it. And then there's one golden tip, and this is a tip worth its weight in gold. Never take primer, especially primer that's only a day old, and use prep oil on it. What I've done in the past, it's been a problem. It's melted some of the primer. And I know you're not supposed to put it on wet, but I'm used to putting it on wet. So I learned that lesson the hard way. Pass that on for what it's worth. Now remember, what I'm trying to do is concentrate all my effort into the casting part. This part that's already machined, yeah, I need to do it, but I don't need to do it like up here. Up here, I can see every time I hit this with sandpaper, I see another high spot coming up. So it's just, there's no way you can do this that like with a machine or something, a lawnmower or whatever. It's just all these radiuses. But what's going to happen when this is done, all these radiuses are going to be reflecting light, especially with that gold paint. And I'm very excited to see this in. Let me get another piece of sandpaper. The problem with this too is the sandpaper, even wet, the sandpaper clogs up. Primer is just like sand and mud. And this is the part here that really needs a little bit of extra attention, because this, they did not machine this in between the spokes. And I want everything to have a radius on it. I want to get in every corner, and especially this bar that goes down this. I think it's a joint, but again, I don't know for sure because I've never been able to find a video of how they make these wheels. Key thing now is to clean this with paper towels. I don't want to use prep ball. I can put a little Windex on it if it gets too dry, but I want to get all that sanding residue off. And that can take a little time until there's no wet spots on here. Now once I'm done with that, I'll take this and hit it with a hairdryer to warm up and dry any moisture that's trapped in these little crevices and little areas. And it looks like the day is playing out to be like an unbelievable day. And here we are in the middle of the winter, and we've got a day with the two things that I would be hoping would happen is the wind isn't blowing up a storm and it's not below freezing. Those are the two criteria. And it looks like we've got both of them today. So maybe it's our lucky day. Maybe it's our Goldfinger day. Who knows? Now I want to get rid of all the residual moisture anywhere in this, even at a microscopic level, because the idea is to get this outside and get a very light coat of primer on it. Very light. Give that an hour to dry and we'll be able to paint gold today. What a day this is turning out to be. Wow. Okay, the last thing is I'm tack ragging this down. It's nice and warm from the hairdryer. And this is what, a little detailing. This is a small detail, but so far we don't have one fisheye in this whole job so far. Boy, is that calling the devil. You don't want to do that. Oh, he never fumbles the football. Oh, there he just dropped the football. Oh my God. So we are going to try to take advantage of a super unbelievably nice day. It's cold, it's a little above freezing, but it's the best we're going to get probably, because the teeth of the winter is coming up in the next 2 months. So more snow, more everything. So we are really trying to take advantage of a very special day here. And I wouldn't rush it, but it'll be nice to see what that gold looks like on the wheel. And this is the primer sealer that we're going to use, and we're going to try to get on one light coat. A light coat. I don't want a big wet drippy drooly coat. And then once this is on, we're going to put it under the heating vent and crank the heat up in the house for an hour. I looked pretty long and hard for something that needed to be sanded or addressed, or a little run or a little spot I missed. That truly looks pretty good. So an hour up by that heating vent and we'll get back here. Time for a coffee break, and then I'll mix up the gold and make sure I'm ready. That weather hasn't changed. So far so good. Now, as always with any of these custom paints or any metallic, I want to make sure all the pigment is off the bottom. It took me a little while to figure out exactly what the ratio of pigment to paint was. And when I use the airbrush, now I'm going to try to do this. This is really more of an experiment than anything. I'm going to try to, oh my God, I can't even open the jar. I'm going to try to do the, with a small spray gun. Since there's no tape lines I have to worry about or anything even similar to that. Now the objective will be to get 3 coats on about 20 minutes apart. I did a little test on the table just to see. Paint looks like it's flowing perfectly. Let's hope it's our lucky day. So it looks like I got the paint flowing pretty good, and what I did, I used the inner hub where you're not going to see it, just to test to make sure I had the paint mixture and pressure just right. We're ready to paint. Now, it looks like that paint is laying down better than I ever thought it would, but we are really taking advantage of a beautiful painting day here, except for the cold. Well, we got to do the other side now. I'm just constantly spinning the wheel so I don't have any chance I'm going to get a run in there. Well, ultimately that really came out nice. I have to admit, I'm really impressed with that. Now that's got to sit overnight, and we'll clear that, or I'm not sure we're going to put a second coat of gold on that tomorrow. I'm going to see how that dries up. Wow, as he trips on a rock. I'm just so excited about seeing that seeing the wheel in gold at last. So we'll make a decision tomorrow morning. We want to put a second coat of gold on and or put the clear on based on the weather. I just couldn't resist. Just couldn't resist playing the music Goldfinger, looking at this wheel. Wow, does that add some joy to this day. I can't believe it. We're under a heating vent. Now, I don't know if tomorrow I'm going to want to put a second coat on. I don't want to put 2 coats on because it's getting late in the day. But that really, and you can imagine what that's going to look like with the clear. So, Goldfinger. The weather's supposed to be nice tomorrow too. You never get too excited about when you hear that. But anyway, Goldfinger. Wow. Talk about things that exceeded my wildest dream. To see the gold and the black side by side, just like I envisioned. What great vision I have, huh? Then maybe Dave Kindig will hire me. But anyway, Dave, I'm available at the right price. Anyway, wow. I am so happy to see that. Now, a lot of times when you do a metallic and it dries overnight, and you see spots, a little spot, well, because the paint is thin. It's very thin. It usually takes 3 coats. I'm not going to make that decision until tomorrow because I really want to see this totally dry that I can pick it up and touch it and look at it. And we got enough paint to paint a trailer truck, so it's not a problem at all. Anyway, wow. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Goldfinger. Anyway, thanks for watching.